The story begins with two siblings, Iris and her younger brother Riley. Their parents had already passed away, and financially, life was not stable for them. But things were even worse, because Riley, Iris' little brother, was suffering from blood cancer. For his treatment, a huge amount of money was required. Iris was desperately searching for a job so she could save her brother's life. One day, she went to a restaurant for an interview, but unfortunately, she wasn't selected. The next day, she met her brother's doctor. While they were discussing Riley's condition, the doctor introduced her to a man named Shepard. Shepard told Iris that he already knew about her problems, how she was struggling to arrange money. He promised her that he could solve everything. But only if Iris participated in a special game. Shepard said that if she played even once, she would get enough money for her brother's treatment. And not just that, she could even become very rich. At first, Iris thought he was joking. But then the doctor assured her that this was real. He even confessed that Shepard had once helped him in the past. On top of that, Shepard promised that if Iris joined the game, he would also find a bone marrow donor for her brother. Iris was hesitant. She didn't trust it completely. But with no other option left, she couldn't say no forever. Later that evening, when she found out that she had been rejected from the restaurant job, she finally decided to call Shepard and agreed to join the game. To her little brother, she only said that she was going to a friend's party and would come back the next morning. That night, Shepard's men came to pick her up. They drove her to a large mysterious mansion. Inside, Iris discovered 7 other participants. 2 of them, Lucas and Cole, came forward and introduced her to everyone. The group was unusual. A paralyzed old woman. A gambler. A man completely drowning in debt. An ex-soldier. And a quiet girl who didn't speak to anyone. Soon after, Shepard himself arrived, this time, with his son. The participants were ordered to leave behind all their belongings, including their phones, and then sit at the dinner table. Expensive food and wine were served. But when Iris refused to eat meat, Shepard tempted her, saying he would give her $10,000 if she did. Desperate for money, Iris finally gave in. Similarly, one of the men at the table, who had sworn that he would never drink again, was suddenly offered $50,000 by Shepard if he finished an entire bottle of wine. And without hesitation, he accepted. Shepard laughed loudly. He declared that with enough money, he could control each and every one of them. Then came the real announcement. Shepard revealed the true nature of this deadly gathering. A brutal game of Would You Rather. Each player, he explained, would be forced to choose between 2 horrifying options. If anyone refused to make a choice, they would be immediately eliminated. The last one standing would be declared the winner. At first, one of the businessmen tried to escape. But before he could even reach the door, Shepard's guards shot him dead on the spot. The message was clear, there was no way out. Terrified, the rest of the players stayed seated. The first challenge began with electric shock belts. Cole volunteered to take the shock upon himself. But when the quiet girl's turn came, she made a shocking decision. She chose to shock the paralyzed old woman instead. One by one, every player made their choices. Some suffered in silence, others passed the pain on to someone else. Lucas, however, proved to be different. He sacrificed himself not once, but twice, choosing to take the shocks just to protect Iris. Then, when Iris' turn came, she had no choice but to shock Cole, leaving him screaming in pain. The ex-soldier stood up and criticized her for this. But Shepard's son immediately mocked him, saying he too would regret his choices soon enough. With that, the next round began. Now Iris was presented with yet another cruel decision. She had to choose between stabbing Cole in the leg with a sharp object or whipping the ex-soldier 3 times with a leather strap. The next round began. This time, Iris was faced with another brutal choice. She had to either stab Cole in the leg with a sharp object or whip the ex-soldier 3 times with a leather strap. The soldier, standing tall despite his wounds, encouraged her. He told her to whip him instead. And so, Iris obeyed. The strap lashed against his skin, tearing it open, blood flowing, yet the soldier endured the pain. When Lucas' turn arrived, he was given two cruel options. Either stab Iris in the thigh, or whip the soldier once again. Lucas couldn't bring himself to hurt Iris. So instead, he struck the soldier with the strap. Finally, it was the soldier's turn. He too was forced to choose. Either stab Lucas, or accept the punishment himself once again. The poor man, unwilling to harm anyone, quietly prepared to take the pain. With determination in his voice, he said, "Give me the same punishment again." And so, he was lashed once more. Then came another man's turn. He was paired with the old paralyzed woman. Two choices stood before him: either hit the army man yet again with the leather strap, or stab the old woman's foot. The man hesitated. He had already seen the soldier's broken state and didn't want to hurt him anymore. So he convinced himself, the old woman was already paralyzed, she wouldn't feel much pain. With that, he stabbed her foot. But disaster struck. By mistake, the stab hit her vein. And suddenly, blood began pouring out. Now, it was the old woman's turn. She was paired against the quiet girl. Her two options: strike the soldier 3 times, or stab the quiet girl instead. Fueled by revenge, the old woman refused to hit the soldier. She chose the second option, and with shaking hands, stabbed the quiet girl. Next came the quiet girl's turn. Her options: hit the army man 3 times, or stab any participant of her choice. She slowly stood up and asked coldly, "I can stab anyone I want, right?" Shepard smiled and agreed. "Yes. I'm giving you this favor, because you already have more points." Without hesitation, the quiet girl turned and stabbed Iris. Fortunately, the wound wasn't deep. Iris survived, but the tension in the room skyrocketed. Chaos followed. Because at that very moment, they realized the old woman was no longer moving. She had bled out. She was dead. Now it was Carl's turn. He was given the same option, but this time, told specifically to stab Lucas' foot. Before he could act, the quiet girl spoke up. She warned everyone. "We shouldn't help each other. If we keep saving one another, then who will be eliminated?" Hearing this, Carl made his choice. Instead of stabbing Lucas, he struck the army man again. By now, the poor soldier's body was failing. He was too injured to continue. Guards dragged him out of the room. Meanwhile, Shepard and his butler began quietly planning the next round. But Lucas' eyes noticed something unusual. The door was open. In a desperate move, Lucas grabbed Iris and tried to escape. On their way out, he fought back against the security guards, attacking them with everything he had. Iris managed to slip out of the hall, but outside, she discovered the truth. Every single door was locked. There was no way out. At that moment, Shepard himself pulled out a gun. Without hesitation, he aimed and shot Carl dead in front of everyone. Then, he gave a cold order. "Find Iris." Terrified, Iris kept running. But Shepard's son cornered her. He captured her and began to torture her mercilessly. Yet Iris refused to give up. In a sudden moment of courage, she grabbed a weapon and stabbed Shepard's son. Seizing the chance, she escaped once more. Meanwhile, on the other side of the mansion, Iris' brother's doctor was battling his own guilt. He could no longer live with himself for bringing her here. Determined to make things right, he armed himself with a gun. He found Iris and promised, "I will help you escape." But before they could act, the butler suddenly appeared from the shadows. He fired. The doctor fell to the ground, dead. Iris was captured once again. And just like that, the brutal game resumed. In the next round, the atmosphere grew darker. A massive water tank was wheeled into the room. The rules were announced. Each player had two options: either hold their breath underwater for 2 full minutes, or choose an envelope. The first man decided to pick an envelope. Inside, it contained what looked like fireworks. Shepard smirked and told him he would have to light the firecracker in his own hand. The man laughed nervously, thinking it was just a small dare. But the truth was horrifying. It wasn't a firecracker. It was a bomb. The moment he lit it, the device exploded. His body was blown apart instantly. And guards quickly dragged his remains out of the room. Next came Lucas' turn. He too chose an envelope. Inside was a simple drawing of an eye. Shepard gave his cruel command. Lucas would have to cut his own eye with a blade. Shaken, Lucas refused. But Shepard gave him just 30 seconds to decide. With no other choice, trembling in fear, Lucas pressed the blade against his face and sliced his own eye. Now, it was Iris' turn. Determined to survive, she chose to hold her breath underwater for 2 minutes. The butler shoved her head into the tank, making sure she couldn't come up early. As the water pressed against her lungs, Iris' mind flashed back to her brother. She heard his voice echoing in her head. "Sister, I want to live life freely." 2 agonizing minutes passed. And finally, Iris survived. Then came the quiet girl's turn. Terrified, she admitted her fear of water. So she chose the envelope. When she opened it, the slip of paper read, "4 minutes underwater." Before she could protest, the butler forced her head into the tank. Struggling desperately, she thrashed against the water. But 4 minutes was impossible. Unable to hold her breath, she drowned. The game had claimed another life. Now, only Lucas and Iris were left. For the final round, Shepard flipped a coin. It landed in Iris' favor. She was handed the final, most brutal choice of them all. Either shoot Lucas and take all the money, or save him, but walk away with nothing. Lucas fell to his knees, begging for his life. He pleaded, "I also have 3 sisters. Please don't shoot me. We will find money somewhere else." Iris' hand shook. Her heart didn't want to, but then, the image of her brother appeared before her eyes. His fragile face. His suffering. His need for treatment. With tears streaming down her cheeks, and shame breaking her soul, she pulled the trigger. Lucas collapsed to the ground. Dead. Shepard and his butler applauded her cold victory. They handed her the prize money. And Shepard revealed one last piece of information. They had already found a bone marrow donor for her brother. The next morning, Iris returned home. Exhausted. Broken. Her hands still trembling from what she had done. She saw her little brother sleeping peacefully. Not wanting to wake him, she went to freshen up. But when she returned to his room, her world collapsed. Raleigh had overdosed on his medicines. He had taken his own life. Iris stood frozen in shock. Her sacrifice, her pain, her sin. All of it, for nothing. And with this heartbreaking twist, the movie ends.